So hold on stronger to me and you. Someday soon I'll find you. Someday soon I'll know you. Someday, ooh, yeah, oh. So hold on to hope, love. I searched high and low for you, for you. Each day gets closer, so hold on stronger to me and you. Someday soon I'll find you.
Well, folks, wherever you're from, we're glad you're here today. Again, I want to welcome you to Mammoth National Park. Again, my name's Ranger Eric. I'll be your guide today, and my friend partner Chris will be with us. So if you'll get your tickets and just give them to one person in your group, you can hand those to Chris. He's going to tear them in half and give you the other half. And if everybody's ready, let's do it.
I know you. Someday, yeah, oh.
Yeah. What you hitting?
Up on the surface, I was going to talk a little bit about some uses of the cave, and you might have noticed in the rotunda, you saw some wooden structures, and you also see these trees right here. Now this all dates back to 1812. We go back to 1812. The United States was a fairly young nation at that time, and we had just gained our independence a few years prior to that from the British. But even though we had that independence, we still depended on the British for a lot of things. We imported a lot of items from them. Well, one big item we imported from them was gunpowder. Well, in 1812, we declared war upon them. Well, there's a problem. We just declared war upon the country that we get the majority of our gunpowder from. And then they blockaded the eastern coastlines where we couldn't get it from other countries. But it had been known for some time that in caves such as Mammoth, that out of the dirt, they took a mineral, they could take a mineral called saltpeter, mix it with charcoal and sulfur and make gunpowder. Saltpeter makes up about 75% of black gunpowder. So what they did is they built these big wooden boxes. When the war came to an end in 1815, we actually go back to importing gunpowder. It was a lot cheaper to import it than it was to produce it, and then the mining came to a stop. And they just walked off and left everything laying where it is. These wooden pipes you see, the wooden boxes we'll see in a few moments, it is the original wood. The constant 54-degree temperature, humidity level stays around 80%, preserves everything. Also, this room is called the church, or has been called the Methodist Church. And in 1830s, the Reverend George Slaughter Gatewood would hold church services in this room. Now, Reverend Gatewood, he would lead his congregation here. That back in them days, you were using lanterns to come through the cave. So he would gather up all the lanterns, and then he'd place the lanterns. Y'all want to come this way a little bit. He placed the lanterns right up there. And you can see where the smoke from the lantern sooted and blackened up the rock. And then he stood on that rock right there. We call that pulpit rock, and that's where he would stand and preach. So this is an area, and he didn't preach every week, like going to church every Sunday. Maybe about once a month he would do his preaching. And then right over here, right there, see those letters? GSG, that's the Reverend George Slaughter Gatewood. There's his initials. We've been touring Mammoth Cave since 1816. We're one of the oldest tourist attractions in the United States, right up there with the Niagara Falls. Now, back in those days, if you were on a cave tour and on into the 1800s, eventually you would have been led through the cave with an African-American slave. Those were your early tour guides. Now, the slave guides, of course, they were forced to do this. They weren't paid. But here at Mammoth Cave, they were allowed to take a little bit of tip money. And they were allowed to keep these tips. So what they might do, they was picking, you see this writing right here. It kind of looks like spray paint. Well, of course, spray paint hadn't been invented back in the 1800s. But what they do, you might slip them a penny or nickel and they'd sell you a candle. And they'd let you take that candle and hold it up there and take the smoke from that candle. You see, it would make little dots to make letters of your name. We simply call it smoke or candle smoke writing. And you can see like the O and R there really well. They make the dots to make the letters of the name right there. Now, if it was on a big, long, or tall part of the ceiling, they'd sell you a big old long stick with a nail on it. You put that candle on that nail, and then you could reach those tall places. Get your name smoked up there. But now let's think about this. You up there smoking that name with that big long stick with that candle, what's going to happen? Wax going to drip in your face, yeah. So now we take a mirror, and we hold that mirror out, and we smoke that name. But what's going to happen if we use a mirror and we're not careful?
Right back.
It's going to be backwards, like right there. Now we're going to see some more backward names. Now, the owners of the cave, they didn't have a real big issue with this at first, because they thought, well, you write your name over there, like Mr. George Scarborough, maybe he might want to come back a few years later to see if it's still up there. And if he comes back, he might bring some more people with him. He brings more people, I'm going to make some more money. And folks, it's always been about the high almighty dollar. Aren't you all glad I don't like that anymore? That's not like that is, no. But old George Tapsock right here. And old George, he wrote his name up there. He's probably standing back here after he wrote it, smoked it up there, admiring his work. And then he looks out here and he's like, oh gosh, I left a letter out. His name is Tap Scott. Now we know as we go up Gothic here in a few moments, this was an ideal place to do this. The ceiling was really smooth and flat. And as we go along, it actually got closer to the floor, a lot easier to put your name where it would show up really well. Now, we get into the late 1800s and the early 1900s. The owners of the cave are kind of looking and seeing all this writing, and they notice this writing is kind of getting out of hand. And we have some old letters that say that some of the visitors were complaining about this. It's starting to kind of deface the cave. So the owners now, they start thinking, well, maybe it's time we stop this. So they tell their guides, even the African-American guides, there's no more writing in the cave. Also, you don't need to be taking tips because you're getting paid now because you have your freedom. So the writing stops. Well, they're always looking, all of us are this way, folks. We're always looking for a way to make a little money on the side still. So they thought, well, if I can't let these people write their names, maybe I can let them take some of these rocks and stack them up and make a little monument for them. Maybe make a monument for your family or a monument for the state you're from or a business or a school. Now, the owners also at this time are telling the guides, as you're walking along on these cave tours, let's start moving these rocks back kind of out of the way. Make it easier for people to walk through the cave. So now, again, just little things they would do. So as we walk up Gothic, you're going to see a lot of monuments. Some of them have little signs on them advertising businesses and so on. Oh my gosh. Gatewood again. See the GSG right there? Mm-hmm. And Edward and Jensen was his brothers. Stephen Bishop's signature. Notice it's backwards. Right there. And then here's a profile. Now, we have no idea who that is, why it was there. Probably what they did is they took their lantern and held it beside their face, and then they were outlined around it. But again, we have absolutely no idea who that is. So I don't know if George was hung up on himself or what, but his name is all over this cave. A lot of times it's just the initials GSG. There's about 4 or 5 of them right there. And there's advertising college in Henderson, Tennessee. Here is a monument on the right here advertising Vanderbilt Dental. See, they carved it in there. But look at the rock. It's in the shape of a tooth. So they found them a pointy rock right there. See, folks in the back, look here, it says Vanderbilt Dental.
It's because the ceilings, it's low.
Now this section right here, folks, is called Registry Hall. And here's the reason. Look at all the names. And this was an ideal place to do it right here because the ceiling's very flat, very smooth, and it was easy to get to. And there's George A. Tapscott. He spelled it correctly right there. Irene Ryan. It's not up in here, but anybody know who Irene Ryan was? Anybody? You ever watched the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yep.
Granny? Her name's in the cave. It's not in here. It's in another part of the cave. Her name's in it from 1937. John Wayne's name is in here, the actor. Here, there's so many, it's hard to make a lot of them out.
Right, they just blend.
Too carried away. But again, it was really flat and it was easy. They didn't have to use the sticks to get there to write it. So, and you can see where they carved it with knives and stuff too.
Earliest date written.
The earliest date I've seen is right here, 1812. Now I'm told there's one in here in 1798. I have not seen that one. Now over here to my left, this is a place where many a young man sacrificed his life. And we call this the bridal altar. How about it, fellas?
No
the men are always quiet when I say that on this story. See, I can say because my wife's not here. But this is called the bridal altar. You look at the formations here, it does kind of have a look of it, you know, an altar in a church. There were weddings that here. I think the last wedding occurred in 1915. But also, we had to stop the weddings here in the cave because they were just getting off to a rocky start. And I'll laugh at the real bad ones. I see.
We feel sorry for you.
Thank you. It helps my self-esteem. In 1838, a Fleming Gatewood had ownership, part ownership of the cave. And there's F.S. Gatewood. Fleming Gatewood was the father of George Gatewood who did the preaching. In 1838, he sold the cave to a Frank Gorin. So you see F. Gorin right there, F.S. Gatewood, 1838. We believe right here is where they made the deal. And they signed, shook hands that I'm going to sell you, Mr. Gorin, the cave. And then they signed their names right here. They're kind of like signing the contract right here. So 1838 is when Gatewood sold his portion of the cave to Frank Gorin. Isn't that stuff? Also, Stephen. Stephen was actually owned by Franklin Gorin. The fellow back here bought the cave in 1838. And Franklin Gorin, I'm not going to go into all the story. There was some type of lawsuit or something, and part of the settlement was Franklin Gorin was able to purchase or had Stephen. Now, typically a slave took on the last name of their owner. And right here you see Stephen Gorin, which was his owner's name, last name. Well, in 1839, Franklin Gorin sells the cave to a Dr. John Cron. Part of Dr. Cron purchasing the cave, he purchases Stephen along with it. And then Dr. Cron allowed his slaves to take on the last name of their choice. So Stephen's family, his father was Bishop, so he changed his name to Bishop. But there's one of Stephen's early names with Frank or Stephen Gorin. There is a place in the cave, it's not anywhere we tour, but there's a place where Stephen wrote Stephen Gorin. And then later, after things changed, he went back with a knife and scratched out Gorin and put Bishop. And I think that stuff's pretty neat too, right there. So all right. Everybody see that? And there's Stephen right over there in cursive right over there. There it is. Well, right here, folks, we call this rock formation, was originally called the Devil's Armchair. Well, of course, down here, we don't really like to talk about that old boy too much, so they thought they'd changed the name. And it was later changed to Jenny Lind, L-I-N-D, Jenny Lind's dining table, armchair. Anyone know who Jenny Lind was? Who was she, man? A singer? She was a singer. She was an opera singer from the 1800s. But she was a very popular singer, and she was taken on a tour of the United States by P.T. Barnum. But he did take her on a tour, and he brought her to Mammoth Cave. Now, we have no evidence that she sang in the cave, and there's a couple stories as to why she didn't. One story says the day she was here, her throat was bothering her a little bit, and she was afraid the cool, damp air may damage her voice, so she didn't want to sing. And then another says that Mammoth Cave Estates wanted her to sing for free. And if you folks know anything about P.T. Barnum, he did not do anything for free. So whichever story, we're not sure. But in her honor, we call this Jenny Lind's Armchair.
We finished the cave tour. We did what? The Gotham
Avenue, I think.
Gotham Avenue cave tour. And so it was really, really cool. Highly recommend it.
Huge cave area.
Do what?
Said it was a huge cave area.
Yeah.
Huge rooms. I mean, it's
Unbelievable.
like half acre to acre size. It was large.
And just amazing, the history behind it. Anyway, so now we're gonna go do a short little, I think it's a 2.5 mile trail. What's it called, Craig?
Green River Loop Trail.
Green River Loop Trail.
No, I got it wrong. I got it right here in my hand. I still got it wrong. It's Green River Bluffs Trail.
Well, there you have it, people. Green River Bluffs Trail. That is, if we can find it.
We're on it.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's just a combination of several trails together.
So is it not a dirt trail?
Yeah, right now it's not.
Alright, we'll see what this looks like, and then we will be done for this trip.
Yep.
So we will be flying out in the, well, actually tomorrow evening.
Yep, flying out of Louisville.
To head back home.
Got a little work to do here tomorrow, and we'll be on our way.
Yep. Craig's got a little work to do, and Barbara's going to sleep in a little bit.
That's the way it always goes.
Whatever. I'm not too awful interested in it.
Well, you're going to go do something else.
Are you? Oh wait, a cemetery. Craig hates to see me see a sign for an old cemetery.
Well, when her dead people burden.
So Stephen Bishop is buried here. The one we heard so much about within the cave. Old Guide Cemetery. What? He lived a hard life. Was he the one they said got tuberculosis?
Yeah.
And was freed, became a freed slave 1 year before he died.
Yep.
Oh, look, and it says the headstone was originally intended for a Union soldier. That's why it has a decorative military carving on the top.
Judging by the shape, I'm guessing that's his right there.
Oh, yeah. So that would be Stephen Bishop's right there. Big tree. So the road we just came up, it's pretty steep, but it's about half a mile to the visitor center, it says, and it brings you up from that riverboat landing straight up to the mouth of the cave. So Craig believes, and I think he might be right, it's probably how they brought up the visitors from the riverboats to the cave. Makes sense anyway. Anyway, now we just have a little ways uphill to get back to the car, and that's gonna call it for this trip.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
See you on the trail.
Bye.
can play music for hours and hours, but the sun will still be coming up soon. The world's just spinning a little too fast. If things don't slow